Yeah, we talked about some of the IDs developers use, WebStorm, RubyMine, IntelliJ. Not super important for you to really know that, but understanding Git might be quite important to understand some of the language that developers use. Git, just reading it off the top of my screen, Git is a free and open source software for distributed version control, tracking changes in any set of files, usually used for coordinating work among programmers, collaboratively developing source code during software development. I mean, this is just a very fancy way to just say BS, right? Git is something we use to track changes in our files while we collaborate with other developers, right? So when I make an update to a code to fix a line of code or add a new code and I push it to Git repository, we'll talk about that. When I push it, what happens is that new developer can now pull from it. It's kind of like a backup of some sort. But the nice fancy thing about Git is it easily tracks the changes I made and stores it against my name compared to the changes someone else has made. So, I mean, we all know who cooked beans, who made this error or who did this nice feature, who built it. You can easily track the changes. You can know when this change was made to the code. So a code that has been written for like 5 years over and over again, you can know at every point in time what change was made. So the code, what code was added, who wrote what code to be added. It makes life significantly easy for developers. If your developers are not using Git right now, they should probably start using it. Super important for any modern code development lifecycle. So yeah, so Git is that open source tool that we use to track changes in our code base, right? So when the developer says I've created a pull request, what they really mean is I've initiated a change in Git. Pull request is a Git language, right? I've initiated a change. I've pushed my update, the feature I've added or the code I've added. I've pushed it to the remote branch, which is the branch on the server, on the storage backend, right? I've pushed my changes to the Git. Now I want you as the manager or my tech lead to merge my changes to the master branch, to the general remote branch, so that other people can approve for my change. So it's just a way to just create clear. So everyone is not just pushing to the back end, pushing to the code base, creating a lot of problems, right? It makes things easier. I will share my screen and show you some pull requests, how pull requests are made, some of the processes of this, the ones I think you need to know. But yeah, that's just the basic of Git. So when you hear Git, just think of it as a tool developers use to track their work, manage collaboration on work, and manage most of the development life cycles, the development processes. So there are there are a lot of Git repository providers that you know, but the popular ones are GitHub, Bitbucket, and GitLab. There are a lot of other ones. These are the ones that just come to the top of my head. GitHub, Bitbucket, and GitLab. The program I'm sure you'll be created with GitHub. Before you do that, there is something called a branch in Git. And a branch is so before you start making, so there is a default branch on every code base that Git has been configured on, which is the master branch, right? Or the main branch, depending on how your code was configured. It could be the master branch or the main branch. So everyone has access to that main branch or master branch by default. That's what everyone has access to, every developer. So if I start working on a new feature called add payments to application, for example, I could branch out of that master branch, create a new branch, and name it add payments to application. That's what I'll name the branch, right? So I'm branching out of the master branch to the new branch I'm creating called add payment to application. Then when I'm done making my code changes, I initiate a merge to merge it back to master, right? So I initiate a pull request or a merge to merge it back to master, so that when it's merged back to master now contains all the code changes I've made. Note at the same time, someone else might have branched out of master branch to a new branch called fix login bug. Maybe there was a bug on login, so fix login bug. So you can see there's a master branch here. One developer branched out to add payment, created a branch named add payment. The other developer branched out to fix login bug. Two of us now want to merge it back to the master branch. So at the end of the day, like, the system as a way is smart enough to know these are the code changes you made. These are the code changes you made. You merge it in a way that there are sometimes there are conflicts, which we'll talk about, but merge it in a way that our code just stack on each other, right? And enters the master branch effectively. So we are not really stepping on each other's toes. Like, different developers can be working on different things. If tomorrow I realize that there's an issue with my payment and I want to revert, I can simply revert the branch that said add payment to application, and I'll still have my fixed login bug because there were different branches that were now merged to the master branch, right? So I hope you understand what branches are. I mean, I'll test your knowledge on this in the quiz, but I hope you understand what branches are. So sometimes when you try to merge, there are merge conflicts when the person that is developing the add payments to master branch wrote on the same file that the person that is fixing login bug wrote on. So there cannot be merge conflicts sometimes, which cannot be resolved by the tech lead or by the individual, depending on the structure of your team. Depending on who takes responsibility for that within your team, you can clarify that to your tech lead. But usually, Git is smart enough to resolve most of the conflicts, so you don't see conflicts happening in this. So I'll show you an example of pull requests. It's very important to understand what branches are for you to understand what pull requests are. So I'll show you an example of pull request here. And when the developer says after the pull request, what you should be searching for. See you in the next content.